Every basic ability, skill, and talent can be developed through hard work, good strategies, persistence, dedication, and input from others. Where focus goes, energy flows. So focus your energy on continuous learning and stop wasting time thinking about looking smart. Build resistance, build vulnerability, build courageousness, and face adversity with a smile. Become comfortable with uncomfortable. You know, the only person that you need to prove anything to is you. Imperfect action trumps perfect inaction. Stop wasting time and get on with it. Failure is part of learning, so start learning by taking action.
Christian Lavolsi, welcome to the hot seat. It is Wednesday and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. That's the day.
Do you celebrate Valentine's Day?
Yeah, we did. I had a couple of calls this morning while everyone was sleeping, and when I woke up, Lucy had boiled me a couple of eggs so I could eat the egg yolks. Jamie in Ireland has me on this crazy diet at the moment. I won't go into it, but it's as I say. So yeah, know that, and then we give ourselves presents and cards, and then the children participate with demonstrating their love and affection with big hugs. So no, I was very lucky. I got a beautiful gift, a beautiful Hermes pocket square that is orange, bright, like exactly our corporate colours. So. That's going to
well done, Lucy. Right on brand.
I'm pretty sure Lucy was thinking she needs me for a photo shoot or something. But,
there's a hidden agenda there.
I totally love it. It was magnificent. It's going to go perfect with my white jacket. So it's all good. I'm excited, and then I knew that Lucy she was struggling. The dog Louis, the little Frenchie. Ate one of Lucy's AirPods, and so I've been making her suffer. So she's only been using one AirPod, and so I actually bought her the new AirPod Maxes, the big headphones. So,
nice.
So we both got really good treats. So yes, we do celebrate.
Nice.
But yeah, no, really nice. So I can't wait. I'm actually going to wear the pocket square tomorrow in Melbourne when I'm filming the documentary on Friday with Simi. So
yes. And Simi reached out to me, actually. A huge shout out to Simi. She reached out to me yesterday saying she was so excited to have you down in Melbourne and to be around as well. So welcome to everyone who's listening in. We've got a Facebook user that just said Happy Hearts Day. So that's lovely. And I feel like I kind of color themed myself for today's episode as well. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Valentine's Day. We're here to talk about money and cash. And I have 3 burning questions that I want to ask you this week, Christian. And let's get stuck straight into the first one. I'm hitting out hard today. I'm just going straight for it. My first question for you today is, who should have access to your accounting software and your business bank accounts? I really want to know this because I feel like we all have different interpretations as a business owner on who should be accessing our financial records and our bank accounts. And I would love to hear your perspectives.
Well, I mean, in the realm of business, you know, granting access to your accounting software and business bank accounts should actually be a practice marked by prudence and strategic foresight. But ideally, access should be limited to a select few whose roles, Simone, inherently require that direct interaction with the financial data as well as transactions. So this often includes you, the owner. And don't laugh. There are lots of people who do not have access to their Xero or MYOB, and it shocks me because it's like, what on earth are you doing? Then it should include, you know, your financial controller or your officer or your CFO or your bookkeeper, right? So any accounting personnel and potentially a trusted business advisor or partner. All of our clients in our mastermind, in Evolve or in Boardroom, grant me complete access to their Xero accounts and MYOB accounts, and I will often be in there having a look. My one-on-one customers don't even get a choice. That's like it's a must
Yeah.
if you want to work with me, because
And to be clear, there's different levels of security clearance that you can give to people. So that doesn't mean that you've got full access to go and play around with their books, or maybe you do. I don't know. What kind of
I do
access do people give you?
because you can't get payroll access unless you have complete access, and so a lot of the time with our bigger clients, where like let's say I'm chairman of several boards, of companies that employ 70 to 100 people, I want to occasionally go and do my own analysis rather than rely on what the financial controller has given me or the CFO has given me. Not because I don't trust them. Sometimes I just want to understand, and sometimes looking at it through my own lenses gives me a different perspective. But so that's kind of who should have it. Moreover, though, you've got to embrace that tiered access approach that you're referring to, not only to mitigate the risk, but it also uploads a system of checks and balances, right, which are crucial to maintaining your financial integrity. Now, in today's digital age where cyber threats loom large, the importance of actually safeguarding your financial data cannot be overstated. So therefore, regular audits and reviews of who has access coupled with robust cybersecurity measures are now becoming paramount, right? So in summary, judiciously selecting who has access to your accounting software as well as your bank accounts, you're not just protecting your business, right, from that potential external or internal threats. You're actually also laying a solid foundation for responsible financial management. Okay, and that also that approach also encourages the culture of transparency, accountability, and ultimately contributes to what we love to build for people, and that is sustainable growth and success of their businesses.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's easier, or this is my perspective, that it's easier when your organization is bigger to separate and delegate around the risks. So what could you say specifically to smaller businesses that have, maybe just it's that 1 to 5 employees? How are you careful about separating those duties for risk?
What, from giving them access?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
look, if you've got a business that's got 5 people in it, then none of your staff should have access to your financials. You're not big enough. A bookkeeper should have access. Your accountant should have access. And if you've got a business coach, depending on the caliber of them, then if they have a requirement where they're going to support you in financial management on a monthly basis, then they should have access. But that's it. I wouldn't be my employees wouldn't have access. I mean, I give you guys access because you're captains of your own departments, and you're also invoicing and billing and doing checks and balances. But I'm also a very different beast. I build a lot of trust in the team, and and again, there's only 3 people who fundamentally have access to that, and you all have your own passwords, and they're the only passwords that no one else knows. So therefore we can even track who's been in, what's been happening, but if you're doing the stuff I said earlier, which is doing the checks and balances regularly, then even if someone does make a mistake, you can pick it up pretty quickly. But we also have an external financial controller, so that also and they're the only person doing reconciliations and checks, and so it's again having that tiered level approach.
Okay, great. Okay, so I wanted to move into my next question is more so around the financial statements and the paperwork on the business side of things when it comes to money in the bank. Why don't the financial statements really make sense to what the cash in the bank is?
I love this question. I get asked this question a lot, and it's funny because I think accountants actually struggle to answer it. But let me try. Financial statements and the cash balance in the bank often will tell different stories, and that's due to the accounting practices, right? It's also due to the timing of transactions. So, and this is why we try and have cash flow statements, balance sheets, and profit and losses very much separated. I mean, we did a whole deep dive on this at one of our intensives, and it was an absolute eye opener for people who knew their finances, but then actually went, "Oh my God, I really, really don't." So let's start with. So firstly, there is accrual versus cash accounting, right? Now, depending on the size of your business and how you're set up, you will be either an accrual and cash. Your taxes, your income tax is actually always accrual, but you might actually have a cash reporting. So inside Xero MyOb, you can actually alternate between the two. This throws people out a lot. It's like, but most businesses operate on that accrual basis accounting, where revenues and expenses are recorded when they are earned or incurred, not when the cash is exchanged, right? So this means that you can recognize revenue before you actually receive the cash, or record the expenses before paying them out. So that leads to discrepancies between your financial statements and your bank account. That's the most obvious, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got outstanding receivables. If your financial statements show high revenue, it doesn't necessarily mean that cash has been received. Customers might not have paid their invoices yet, which inflates revenue on the income statement without affecting the actual balance sheet. You then got unpaid liabilities, so your accounts payables, and similarly, like receivables, the expenses might not be recorded in the income statement, but they are recognised regardless of whether they have been paid. And so this again makes it appear less profitable on paper, even if the cash hasn't actually left your bank account. Then you've got things like prepaid expenses and deferred revenue. I'm not going to get into that. It's probably too long a discussion. Capital expenditure is an absolute big one, because purchasing assets like equipment or property impacts your cash flow, but doesn't actually show on the income statement. Sorry, income statement, profit and loss statement, right? Instead, the expense is actually capitalized and then depreciated over time, and that affects the balance sheet and the cash flow statement, but not the income statement immediately, right? So really, really important that people understand this. And this is not an easy thing to get your head around, right? I've been running businesses and working for other people where I had to manage cash for a very long time, whether it was director of sales and marketing, chief operations officer, or even a private equity manager, right? A fund manager. So these things are really important. So for me, it's secondhand. But the other thing is inventory purchases, right? Now, if your business holds inventory, purchasing more inventory will actually decrease your cash balance, but it won't actually effectively affect your income statement. So it won't actually affect your P&L until the actual revenue inventory is sold, right? Then you've got common things like timing differences. There can be a lag between when transactions are recorded in the accounting system and when the cash movements occur in the bank. For example, if you use Stripe or you use Go Cardless, they have clearing houses and the money sits in their accounts for 3 days. So if it's all auto-populated and you're automating, and Xero, for example, and MyOb are sweeping the Go Cardless account or sweeping the Stripe accounts, then that will appear on your on your system, on your P&L as it's been paid and transacted, but money hasn't actually hit your bank account, even though it's been swept out of your client's account. So these things, but so it's a timing difference, okay? And this is why you should look at your cash at bank every single day, and then you should look at your financial statements weekly, right? Like if you're looking at your financial statements more than once a week and do it on the same day every time, then you're probably going to start having all of these challenges around timing. And then lastly, you got bank fees and interest. Bank fees may charge, the bank may charge you fees or even interest that is not immediately recording in your accounting system. And that again leads to the cash at bank challenges. So I hope that answers. I hope that I've tried to cover everything in there, but
I think it's a big question. It really is, but I think it's something that we hear often is people going, my statements are saying I'm doing really well, and I look at the bank and where's the money then? If I'm doing so good on paper, where is the actual cash money? So I think it's really interesting for you to be able to highlight some of those points of just these are the areas that maybe you want to dig further into or concentrate on a bit more to understand the timing. Like you said, timing's everything in these situations. All right, I want to move into our third question and keep this on time today. And I think this is a nice flow on from what we've just been talking about. We know so much in the media is cost of living and people struggling financially and all those sorts of things. I'd really like to ask you, Christian, for your opinion and suggestions on what are the two biggest action steps you can take if you feel that you're running out of cash in your business right now. What are two things that you should really be doing, looking at, working on? Talk to us.
Look, if you're currently in a cash crush or in a cash crunch, then you need to take immediate and strategic action, right? Because you've got to navigate out of the situation effectively. Now, I remember I'm speaking to entrepreneurs and business owners, not not mum and dads and their home budget, right? Because that's going to be completely different. So just a caveat there. So what you got to do is you actually got to identify your immediate cash sources, right? That's the first thing that I would be doing. And when I was turning around companies, or we'd acquire companies and then turn them around to sell them, this is the same steps that I would take. So I'm just gonna walk you guys through these. So one, immediately identify the cash sources. So you review your accounts. Start with your accounts receivable to identify overdue payments that can be collected quickly, and then prioritize these collections and reach out to all the clients or customers to expedite those payments. Because if you're in business, if you're going through a cash crunch, the likelihood is so is your suppliers, right? So are your customers, which therefore means you need to keep your trading days very, very narrow to your advantage, right? So then what you got to do is, and this is my favorite, whenever we used to acquire companies to sell them, we would go in and I'd just pull apart all the non-essential spending. I'd say to the chief finance guys, I say, okay, I want you to go through and I want you to cherry pick everything out that doesn't need to be there. Why are we spending? If it's not making us money, I want out. I don't care. I don't care if it's a J curve. I don't care if it's a future expense. Nothing. Just remove it, right? And give me a list. And often you'd find 5, 6, 7%. Now, of a couple of $1 million business, trading business, that's significant money. It's $100,000, right?
Yeah.
Normally these businesses that you're buying are losing about $100,000. So you can go in, and the owners are too caught up in it to actually do this exercise. So we go in, bang, immediate, right? We normally collect money from people who haven't paid for a long time, and then uncover that those people were unhappy and something else. So then we can remedy that, right, and then rebuild that relationship, right? So, so that's a simple one. So what you do is you conduct a thorough review of all your current expenses, and then identify all the areas that you can immediately reduce costs. This might involve delaying non-critical projects, reducing any discretionary spending, or even renegotiating any terms that you have with suppliers to extend the payment periods for yourself, right? Then you can also, what you have to do is review your inventory and assets, right? There's so many companies that hold bucket loads of inventory that has expired sometimes, and it's like, what are you doing, right? Inventory management is huge. You're going to some manufacturing facilities, and they haven't been able to move a product line, and it's now getting close to its expiry date, yet some buffoon thinks it's okay to still try and sell that product at full price when they've got like 3 weeks of shelf life left. And it's like, mate, grow up, right? Pricing is an exchange. Go out and flog it quickly and make people aware that, hey, it's got a 3-week shelf life. We're going to get rid of it 50% off, move it. Because once it's expired, it's done. It's rendered useless. You can't do anything with it, right?
Yeah.
So they're the kind of the other initiatives that we would do. And additionally, you evaluate all the non-essential assets that can be sold without impacting your operation and core functions. So I remember once we went into a company, we acquired it. I was part of the investment team. There was 5 of us. We bought it. We paid $1 million there or so. We knew exactly before we bought it, by looking at the financials, all the shit we weren't going to need by lending out this business. Well, we pretty much paid out the loan on that business, on that company, by eliminating all the assets that we had in this manufacturing plant, and we sold it as secondhand goods and paid our loan off just like that. Right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now we were at net zero, and then we reduced all the costs. Everything I've said that we did, we reduced them. We found 11.5% of savings. Now we had operational cash flow, and we ended up selling that business for an undisclosed amount of money. I won't say, but let's say the return was more than 5x. And we did that in less than 13 months. So not a bad return for 5 blokes. So, pretty straightforward. So then what you want to do is the other key thing, the step that you want to do is you want to secure additional funding. Okay. Now, even when we don't need money, I always have a line of credit ready. Okay. This is all part of the risk mitigation strategy around cash flow. Now, if you're currently experiencing cash crunch now, you're behind the 8 ball. Going to your bank is probably not going to be great, but there are so many sharks out there prepared to lend you money. Be really careful. Those interest rates are 22 to 25%. They sell you the dream that you can have the money in 24 hours, and please don't go borrow that unless you absolutely desperately need it, because paying it back is going to send you broke, right? Unless you're using it as bridging finance. And we'll go into that maybe another day. But so the first thing is you explore emergency funding options. So, if you have a great relationship with your bank, contact them or any other financial institution to discuss what's available, particularly in that short-term financing option. So, like I said, a line of credit, even short-term, even an overdraft. A lot of people don't have overdrafts. I don't have an overdraft. I have a massive cash reserve that we keep for each business that compensates us for 6 months worth of wages and operational expenditures. Now, that's all well and good. I've been in business a long time. I've been able to do that. But everyone should work to that. Everyone should aspire to that. And people go, oh, well, that's great. Yeah, but you've already stuffed up your business, right? That could be really challenging. I'm talking to the dreamers and believers out there that are building their businesses and have built great businesses. I mean, that's always our ideal client, right? That's why I'm finding it a little bit hard to talk about this, because it's like it's stuff I just don't do anymore, right? Because you kind of make a decision to work with the best, so to take the good people to become great, not to take the bad people and rescue them so they can go be bad again, right? And by the way, that's a pattern, because a lot of people don't learn from those initial lessons. I learned from all of my lessons, but I always would argue that I was always very good at what I did. I just got my ego in the way and made mistakes, and just made poor decisions, and it's called naivety and youth, and we all do that, right? And so you got to be given the second chance. But I see a lot of people making the same mistakes every single day, even when I give them advice. People I meet and they're like, "Oh, Christian, I can't afford to work with you, but what advice would you give me?" And I give them a piece of advice, and I see them in the street 3 months later, bump into them. "Oh, how's it going?" "Oh, no, I shut down the business." I said, "Did you do what I told you to do?" "Yeah, no, I didn't think it was for me." I said, "You shut down your business." That kind of stuff baffles me, right? Like, even we get so many people writing to us, and thank you to all of you who write to us and say thank you for the hot seat, thank you for your podcast. It teaches me so much. I know people that, and we've probably got to stop this, where we give away so much education. I just can't help myself, because I love being able to share with people what I know, in order for them to live their very best life. But there's so much information out there. You got to be careful not to get the misinformation. But when you do get it, like some of the questions you ask me, they're coming directly from our 50,000 followers on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
So what is it, 40,000? 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. So it's not like stuff I'm making up. It's not stuff you're making up. You're asking me these questions from the polls, and then so we can give people back that information. And hopefully, for those of you that are listening who get inspired by it and go, "Oh my God, I kind of need someone to help me," then maybe you might give us a call and we can walk you through some of the things that we can do in order to help you create meaning, wealth, and freedom. Right? Now, I should probably get back to the point. So the other thing you can do is you can go chasing government aids and grants. Now, I strongly encourage you that if you're affected by bushfires and floods and the governments have grants, you chase those, because they're pretty easy to access. Don't be a martyr who thinks, "Oh no, there's someone out there that deserves it more than me." That's not the case. I used to be that person, and I missed out on bucket loads of money, like through COVID. I was an idiot who never even applied for anything, and was like, and then it clicked to me, why am I not? Everyone else is. And then you read all these stories years later that companies that were profiting took $2-3 million of JobKeeper payments. I'm like, that kind of pissed me off. But at the same time, I still wouldn't change my integrity around, I was very fortunate. We were making money. I didn't need it. But there were some other grants that I should have probably gone for. Business grants, not all my companies were performing excellently, but I just always looked at it and went, someone else needs it more than I. And now I'm one of those people paying for it in excessive taxes, and now they don't even want to give us stage 3 tax cuts. So, I mean, it makes you wonder why the world has become the way it is, like if it's the fear of missing out, and then you realize, well, now I missed out and I'm paying for it. That kind of doesn't, make sense.
Yeah.
I think
They don't give you a gold medal at the end of the day, do you? They don't. There's no gold medal for not taking the assistance when the handout's been given. Yeah.
That's
And
right.
I think the interesting takeaway from that is just we panic quite often, right? When we get into these situations, and then we make really bad decisions.
Yeah, I mean, people panic all the time. I mean, you've now known me for a long enough time. Bonnie certainly. I never panic. I mean, you could drop a bomb very close to me, and I'll go into it. My whole world slows down, and I just see things really slowly. And I guess that's my superpower that I've developed over the years of running so many companies, helping so many people. Just being able to support them. But one of the biggest things is during that time, your resilience kicks in. And I always say, I mean, we had someone that made some decisions, and I was like, well, why did they do that? That doesn't make any sense. That's just going to lead to burnout. And why? Because people panic, right? They panic and they go straight into that mode of, oh crap, I've got to make this decision. I've got to make it now. Well, actually, you don't, right? Like even if someone decides they're going to sue you, you still have 30 to 60 days to be able to think. So don't do the first thing that every person wants to do, and that's write a letter of apology. You imbecile. You've just actually, by law, agreed to whatever's been written to you. Go out and get legal advice. And if you say, well, I can't afford it, mate, you can't afford not to, right? Mm. Like this is the thing. Or get some advice from someone you trust, right? Generally, the people that you can trust will give you the same advice of someone that you paid, right? So just keep your ears open. But just the last thing, if you've got a really good business that's in a cash crunch, and this does happen, okay? Really good businesses who are burning through cash in order to grow and scale, then you can actually go out and engage investors and other stakeholders, right? Don't look at your existing investors. Public listed companies do this all the time. They run out of money, and I'm an investor in a gaming company called Mighty Kingdom. The board royally screwed it up. The management team haven't done a better job about it. A couple of other shareholders have tried to move in to try and do it. The shareholders voted them down. Insane, right? Like only because how do you trust the current regime that's wiped, $30-40 million off the balance sheet? My investment is down 74% or something. Actually, I think speaking of that, there's an AGM tomorrow, which hopefully it's tomorrow. I hope I haven't missed it. But but they go out and rally cash constantly to fund their issues and mistakes. Now, public companies tend to get away with this a lot more. Private companies, we don't have that luxury. It's our money, right? We can't just go and grab shareholders' money and burn it and then not even be accountable to it. Like, oh no, we've got to look after all of our employees. Mate, there's no employees to look after. Your primary job as a director of that company is to care about your shareholder. That's your fiduciary responsibility. And I was hoping that I could make it to one of these meetings to actually tell them that and remind them that. As an experienced chair and independent director of companies, that's my sole existence, right? I know that sounds horrible. It's not there to look after the employees of that company. That is the captain of the ship's job. That's the chief executive officer's job. But as a director, right, your job is to actually look out for the investment of your shareholder. That's your only function, right? And to set the culture and the strategic direction. And you can't do any of those three. Then in my opinion, you should resign. Have some dignity, right? But you can't, we in private sector, and I think this is where my passion comes from. In the private sector, we can't just do that. Because if I do that and I tap someone let's say I go to, one of my investors might be my mum and dad. And I go, hey, listen, I've just blown $1 million being stupid. Can you give me another $1 million? Oh, yeah, son, I love you. Here's another $1 million, go blow it. Right? But that shit happens all the time. So, but what I want you to do is engage your stakeholders. And sometimes your stakeholders might actually be your people. Okay? Because they are your stakeholders. And if you've got a really great business and all of a sudden all you need is a little bit of capital investment, go and approach your management team, your captains, and say, hey, do you want to invest in this? Because remember, it's about growing the pie, not cutting it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people get wrong. And so there's another option that you have when you're fueling cash. But a lot of the time, your emotion gets in the way, Simone. And so people go, oh, no, I don't want to give up my baby. It's not your baby, right? Businesses are not your baby. Oh, my God, here we go. The rant's on, right? Businesses are not your baby. You are the mere custodian of a company, right? As a director, you are just the custodian of that company, right? It's not your baby, right? Okay, it's your job.
This is going to be a whole nother episode because like there's so much to unpack in that because everyone feels like their business is their baby.
No, it's the biggest bullshit, right? Like I used to say that too, and then I realized that they're not your baby, mate. If I've had companies that I've had to close down, right? I wouldn't close down my child, right? Like it doesn't happen, right? So you've got to understand that there are complexities in place that have to be managed, but it's not your baby. You cannot have that level of emotional attachment to that business. And this is why I believe that, I think, Adrian says it really well. Everyone needs a bit of Christian Lavolsi in their life. But it's not just the Christian Lavolsi that you need. You need someone who's going to tell you the bloody truth, right? Your business is not your baby, right? You got to remove yourself from the emotion. And my big clients, I'm so grateful to them. I always say to them, you give me the best job in the world because I get to sit in the ivory tower overlooking everything. Right? And so I don't have to have the emotion that you do. But when I say to you, hey, stop being emotional, this is what I need you to do, you shut up and you listen because you're giving me this very privileged position to sit up the top. Now, if you are incompetent and you want to pay me bucket loads of money and then not listen to me, then I'm not your person and I normally resign. Now, that hasn't happened in many years, but because I work with very, very brilliant people, as you know, and I'm very blessed to be. I learn so much from them on a daily basis, but we learn from each other, right?
Yeah.
So it comes down to, if you're going to have advice, then you got to listen to the advice. And if you're going to have lots of advice, Karim Bokta, if you're out there from the Bokta method, right? Stop listening to too many people, right? Karim's one of our amazing clients. He's grown through Customers on Demand and he's in Evolve and his business is booming. He's been TEDxing all over California and the world. He's a business hypnotherapist, but I call him the Hypnotic, the movie. But we say, have you been Bokted? But I always say to Karim, you are one of the most amazing human beings, but you don't need to listen to too many people. And slowly over the years, he's been slowly starting to creep that back. And the thing is, it's a tough decision to make because if you genuinely want help, then you want to reach out to as many people, but there's only a certain amount of divergent thinking you need, right? And if you can find someone who has a lot of emotional intelligence and a lot of a reasonable IQ and a lot of experience, then you don't need to go out and source 10 million other people. That might sound like, hey, Karim, you should only listen to me. No, when it comes to stuff around business, you should listen to me, and potentially when it comes to marketing, right? Because when you listen to too many people, then you get conflicting messages, right? And I know because I made that mistake when I started. I had like 8 mentors, and all of them were brilliant minds. Almost all of them have Order of Australia medals for business now, right? Everyone but one, I think, right? One was a Reserve Bank chairman. Like, these were people that when I was a 30-year-old boy, I reached out to them and they mentored me, but I was listening to everyone. So I wasn't listening to anyone. Right. And so, it wasn't because they weren't helpful. They were the best of the best. I was very lucky. Right. And, it was about just going, okay, who do I choose to listen to now? Right. And I still have a couple of those guys that I still listen to very, very closely, and intermittently for different reasons. So, but I think that kind of, I guess the key is you got to learn from the experience. But you got to learn from your experiences, but also then implementing better cash flow management practices for your own business in order to prevent the similar situations happening in the future. So all of those things that I said, because I've practiced them over and over again, we do them all the time. It is why all of our bank accounts for each company has 6 months worth of wages in it. I had a business partner, go, we've got all this money. Why don't we have any distributions? I'm like, that's not money. That is to cover our employees and our operating expenses in the event that something goes wrong. That is the buffer, right? And guess what? In that business, we had an instant decline overnight of revenue, and for 3 months, that money kept me going, I don't need to panic, right? And we didn't even have to touch it, but I didn't have to panic. I didn't have to go doing half the things that I've told you guys you have to do, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's really important that you've got to have goals and you've got to set yourself up for it, right? Don't go 2x, don't go 3x, don't go 5x, don't even go bloody 10x. Go 30x in your mentality. It takes the same amount of energy to go 2x as it does 30x. Anything kind of beyond 30x, then it takes a bit more energy, right? But there's nothing stopping you except you, right? And some people say that, I'm not empathetic enough about this. Oh, I'm talking to the wrong person if that's how you feel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're the person I've said that, and all of a sudden anxiety's brewing in you because you're thinking of all the reasons why you can't, that is exactly the reason why you won't even get to 2x. So you got to break that cycle. That's not me being harsh. That's me being compassionate and caring, because everybody has the potential to do anything they want in Australia, right? In Australia, in America, if we're not a third world country. You're not living on the poverty line. Like, I look at our team in the Philippines, and whenever I go and visit them, and I go regularly, as you know, it breaks my heart traveling through some of the regions where children, right? Those children have zero, well, they don't have zero chance, but they have very limited capacity to build a better future for themselves. And that's why it's our duty to help everybody. It should be their own governments that help them too, which pisses me off, right? But the reality is, you live in Australia, don't give me the bullshit that you don't have a chance, right? And I meet so many people when I give keynotes and stuff who, that could never be me. It absolutely could be you. It's the fact that you think it can't be you. And I use, David Warner, in my opinion, is a really good example of a battler. Grew up in the poorest regions of Sydney, and went on to become one of the greatest cricketers. And he has been criticised his whole life. And why? I think because Davey Warner suffers from imposter syndrome. I think because he's constantly being told, you're the small little guy, you come from, third generation, I don't know the real facts, but, I've read some of the stories, but it blows my mind because he just made a commitment, right? And he's made a commitment, and yet we give this guy a really hard time all the time. And it's like, mate, just give the guy a break. Yeah, he might say some stupid shit and he might do some dumb things, but don't diminish his talent, right? Don't diminish the amount of hard work, the growth mindset he's had to have to get out of that situation. And what I say to people, I got another mate of mine, we'll refer him as Hutto. Hutto was a street kid. Now he's a massive property developer in South Australia, building some of the most amazing apartments, like quality. And he started by getting into real estate, working for a real estate agent, learning the ropes, getting off the streets, doing it. 30 years later, street kid. Cole Sanderson, right? Pretty sure that, he was a street kid from the stuff that I've read. He earns millions and millions of dollars, whether you like him or not. You got to respect the fact that he made a decision to start at zero in a really bad position. So if you live here in this amazing country, right, that we have so many freedoms, you can do anything, right? Okay? And when you think you can't, think of the people that genuinely can't. And give yourself a serious kick in the ass to say, I can, right? The challenge that we have as a society, Simone, just like cash flow management, is we don't get the right advice. We don't get the right guidance. I'm not your guru, right? Like I'm just who I am. And I'm not going to change who I am. I've never have, right? I'll transform as I have to because I'll take criticism and advice. But there are things that I'm deeply passionate about, and that's one of them. I genuinely believe that anybody can learn from others. And, hell, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I have done a lot of learning. And that is why I get so passionate about it. But, if you're one of those people that's sitting on the fence, that is unsure, that you think that you're stuck in a dead-end corporate job, but you have a brilliant idea, do you realize that the majority of entrepreneurs, and this is Gallup's research and McKinsey & Co.'s, that most entrepreneurs are now formed in their mid-40s. It's not the 28-year-olds. They're 43 to 45 years old. They're people that have worked in their profession for 20 years, and have become skillful at something, but they don't have the self-belief and the backup to go, I can do this now for my own. There are
That's
so
really
many examples.
interesting because I think, as a society, we look at the new YouTube stars who are 27 years old and they're already killing it. And by the time you get to that 40 stage, you feel like I've missed the boat. I'll just keep working corporate.
No, because if you in corporate, if you've worked a job, not even corporate, let's say that you worked on the manufacturing line of Harley Davidson fuel tanks in Wingfield. It's actually a real thing. And you've learnt, but no one's been listening to your feedback, right? It's not a real thing, but let's say that no one's been listening to your feedback, and you have, you know that you could design, with the help of a industrial designer, a better machine that could do something better, right? But you don't have the understanding of how to do that. You are the perfect entrepreneur. You have all the intel that no one is listening to, so you can do it. And some of the, there's a guy I heard about yesterday who is creating surveys, right? Because he'd been working in the survey industry for 20 years, but no one wanted to listen to his ideas. So he said, bugger it. I'm going to go out, raise some money, and I'm going to go do it. And he's doing it, and they're a $1 billion business.
Wow.
$1 billion business. So if you think you can't, then you've already lost, right? And this is where, we've made a very clear decision in our organization. We're not going to work with all business owners anymore. We're going to only work with entrepreneurs, right? An entrepreneur isn't someone that's already making their money. It's someone with a mindset. It's the person that's prepared to test and learn and fail. It's the person that's prepared to learn, decide, and then act, and then keep going, right? It's the person that's got a dream and they want to turn it into a reality. It's the person who's got an established business and wants to remove the dependency on them because they've been doing it for 10 or 15 years, right? And they want more freedom. It's the person who want to bring meaning and wealth and freedom in their life, right? And, and we've been spending years building products, right, for people along that journey. But what I've come to the conclusion is the ones that stay and the ones that win are all the same ones that have this incredible mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so now it's like the conversation, you were at BNI, but conversation I had with Bonnie this morning on our leadership meeting was exactly that. I want you to narrow this right down. And she's like, you serious? I said, narrow it right down. I want to disqualify another 10% of our audience. And that's not because I don't care. It's because I know who I want to work with and who I can affect, right? I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I don't want to be. I drink Earl Grey. My wife drinks English breakfast, right? I drink decaffeinated coffee. Other people need nootropics to get their day going, right? We're all different, right? So, but one thing I can tell you, and I'm going to wrap this up: managing cash, right? Managing cash is a formula that everybody should use. It's not. It doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business person, whether you are, on the unemployment benefit scheme, right? You all have the power to do more, right? Even if you're on unemployment benefit schemes, right? You can still go out and earn, another couple of $100 a week without affecting, why aren't you doing that? Right? If you want to get ahead, why aren't you doing it? Don't sit there and just blame the system. Right? Now, for some people, it's hard. There might be third generation, fourth generation unemployment. Well, I'm sorry, I can't apologize for your parents, right? But you have the ability to make that choice, right? And all of you in business have the ability to make a choice. If your business is going backwards and has been going backwards for ages, get out. Speak to a good accountant. Speak to a good business advisor. Get good advice and try and sell it. Try and sell it before it falls apart, right? If you're tired and you're frustrated about your business, then why don't you just start implementing an exit for change, right? It's not your baby, all right? Selling it isn't selling your child, right? What about being able to sell, release yourself, and start again fresh, right? I speak to someone like me who's done that many times, right? I mean, I've had 80 children then. Could you imagine what a disaster that would be? And oh my God, I just realized I have had the time covered. We've been on here for 45 minutes. And I've
I
got a
know.
call, right? I've
Absolutely.
got a call now at 11:15, so I'll let you wrap it up.
That is definitely the quote of the week, is that your business is not your baby. We are running with that. There's going to be lots more to come. Christian Lavolsi, thank you very much for your insights, for your time, for your wisdom. We love it. There's so much wealth that comes out of these calls. So thank you very much. And to our listeners and to our viewers, we appreciate you being with us. Keep sending in your questions. Keep letting us know what you want us to talk about each week. That's why we're here. That's why we're bringing you all of this value. So Christian Lavolsi, thank you very much. We'll be back next Wednesday with the hot seat.
All right, awesome. Let me work out which buttons to press.
Working with Christian is a game changer. Hi, I'm Adrian Lee from GrowthLink Coaching and Consulting. I started working with Christian in August 2020 as his LinkedIn growth consultant. We worked together on his LinkedIn brand for about 12 months before becoming business partners in Growth Outsourced late 2021. Christian is a hidden genius. He helped me break through a significant financial target by restructuring my growth consulting online business offer. I don't know of any one person who can give you so much focus, clarity, and structure to live your purpose and get shit done. He holds you accountable to your words and gives you the tough love when you need it. I love his no BS approach to business and life. Everyone needs a Christian Lavolsi in their life. Do whatever you have to work with Christian. This is just the beginning for us, and I am super pumped to continue growing together. Thanks again, Christian.